Guys, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge again, and we've got another Ganzo knife this time. This is in their FH series, the 924. I just noticed they've got the 925 out as well. I'll leave links for that down below as well. I bought mine through Amazon, but since then you can also now get it at White Mountain Knives, where you save 10% with coupon code CCE. 10% off everything. It's a small knife, roughly 2.5-inch blade, G10 handle scales. You can also get it with the G10 and the carbon fiber laminate on there, you know, the really super slick stuff. I don't like that. You lose so much grip that way because this G10's got a really nice texture on it. I'll do the full review when we get to the tabletop, but just before then, just a brief introduction. Wire clip that goes right and left. D2 steel on the FH series primarily. I prefer stainless steel, but sometimes you make compromises because actually with my left hand, I don't know why, I'm not as good at flicking it out with the left hand. Sometimes you make compromises because that's just, you know, what you have to do sometimes. Ganzo, I've reviewed, actually I don't know what the number is. It's got to be over 50 of their knives. I'll leave the number on the screen here. I'll look it up on my profile on YouTube Studio and see exactly how many it is. It's a lot. Sometimes you're looking for a little knife like this, roughly 2.5 inches, and maybe this is the one you want. It's, what's the price range here? $30 US, a little bit less than that, and you save another 10% at White Mountain Knives. Amazon's got it 30 bucks. There's a few other places. There's a store in Hungary. It's actually ganzoknifeshop.com. It's in Hungary. 38 euro for this thing. On AliExpress, you can get this thing for 43 Canadian, but then you got to pay $10 shipping. And this is one knife, if yours is like mine for sure, it'll pass the screening probably at Canadian Border Services Agency. Can't guarantee, those guys are weird. But it should be able to pass because they do tend to pass liner locks that have holes for deployment. No flipper or anything on this guy. So if you're interested in learning more about this knife, I'll give you full dimensions, I'll do a teardown, all that good stuff. Keep watching because that's what's coming today on Canadian Cutting Edge, the FH924. All right, I'm definitely running late on making this video, at least my own schedule I'm late for, so I might not edit this very much, so you might hear some ums and ahs and stuff like that, and that's just the way it's going to be. Here it is. We've got that G10. I remember I told you about that. You've got this gray-blue color. You've got it in a nice green. It's sort of like a forest green kind of color, not an OD green. Forest green kind of color. Black G10, those are your 3 G10 colors, or that carbon fiber laminate. It's a small knife. We've got a space back here where the G10's removed for your lanyard. Of course, it's a lanyard. Nice big hole, easily fits 550 paracord through there. I like that it's inset like that with the G10 gone, so that, you know, the cord doesn't bundle up. It doesn't be a big bump. Little touches. Little touches are what make the knives from Ganzo these days. Ganzo's been making knives for quite a long time, and I've really, really liked their knives. They've got a newer series, the G8, and then more numbers. I think it's an 8000 series. I haven't been liking those, but take a look at some of my other videos about what Ganzo does, and overall, they've been doing some really good quality stuff. They do little things like this. They got a spacer right there for the clip side, the side that you don't use the clip on. So you get it on either side. Really nice little touch instead of just being an empty hole there. I like that. They've been doing that, you know, just a flat little thing. If you've got a knife that's got, you know, a regular clip or whatever. Although, yeah, this is a Ganzo too. This is an older Ganzo. Of course, it's basically super heavily inspired by Spyderco. But this is an old G730. So this is one of their old series knives. And this is back when they were still just using washers. You know, ball bearings hadn't become popular then yet. And, you know, I kept this because I used the Work Sharp not the Ken Onion, but the belt sharpening series, and that tends to put scratches if you're not really careful, or put tape over this or whatever. It tends to put a scratch on your main bevel, and so that's why I kept this one for myself. And I dyed this was orange. I dyed it to a really deep dark purple. I like what Ganzo's been doing. Do I like this knife? I think so. I think I do. The detent on this one's a little bit too strong, but I'll do an adjustment to that. I've got a whole video series, 3 videos on detent issues and how to fix them. And so I'll fix this detent a little bit. Other than that, it's a nice little knife. The handle feels comfortable, chamfered everywhere. The blade shape, it's a nice, basically it's a Wharncliffe. Ganzo calls it a Wharncliffe. Badging's small. I don't like the placement of the badging on the main bevel. I'd prefer if they found another flat spot, but we don't have flat spots. They put a chamfer up here. But if they're going to put it on a ground area that's got an angle, maybe, I don't know if I'd like it up there or not. Probably I wouldn't. So their badging, maybe the Ganzo could be a little bit smaller. Maybe could find a way to put it on the screw here. A little bit of jimping. I wish there was more of that jimping, because that jimping is good. I wish it came all the way up to where the chamfer ends. That's only, what, 2-3 more cuts in there of those vertical lines. That would have been nice. I would have liked that better, but it's okay. We've got stainless steel liners. There's some skeletonizing in there. It could use more skeletonizing. The balance point is here. If they would have made it a bit lighter, the balance point could be here, which is where I'd prefer it to be. A little bit closer to where my index finger is going to grip when I'm cutting. Love that as the balance point. Not that big a deal. You could drill it out further if you wanted to. The liners shouldn't be too hard to drill out. Is the blade good for cutting? Is it a good little EDC? Yes. I like how thin it is at the edge, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Roughly an inch, a tiny bit over an inch that way, and about 2.5, and I'll give you the numbers later on. Proportionally, it's pretty good. It's not really a forward grip. You can sort of do a forward grip thing there, but it's not very comfortable on your finger in here to grip up there. So most people are going to be gripping like this. I did do some testing gripping a little bit up here, and I didn't really like it. If this would have been flat, here, I'll use my ruler. If it would have been flat like that, so you wouldn't see this sticking up. If it would have been flat like that, it'd be a little bit more comfortable, and then you could always sand down the G10 a little bit more if you want to make it fit your finger a little bit better. If there was grip up there, it'd be almost a 4-finger grip for people with my hand size, which is just barely into the extra large range for men's gloves, for North American men's glove sizes. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I like this. The tip is really easy to use. You can pinch up there if you need to. You can stick your finger along there, if you want to use that for tip work. Good control. I like that an awful lot. D2 steel. In Alberta, I don't really mind that much, although I much prefer stainless steels for pocket knives. It's going into a hot pocket. My pockets on the inside, especially in the summertime, are going to be hot and humid, and so I don't prefer a stainless steel, but their D2 is pretty good. They do a good job of heat treating their steel, keeps an edge quite well. It's not too hard to sharpen, and I'm happy with it. The hole for deployment, what about that? It's very well placed. It's a nice hole in there for deployment. Your finger can get behind there and flick it out. Usually use my middle finger. It works better for me. Most people probably use their middle finger as well. It just gets in there, and it's got a chamfered edge on that hole, and it just works really well for deploying the blade. The detent's just too strong on this thing, which is why I'm messing up sometimes, and I will fix that. I mentioned that already. The wire clip, yeah, I like their wire clip. It's a strong clip. There's good retention on there. There's a good spacing for it right there to make it easy to get into a pocket. It climbs right over every time and sits in there. It holds on well, the good spring tension. It's not just going to fall out. You've got to pull on it to get it out, but not too hard. I like their wire clip an awful lot. Now, like I said, we've got T6 screws back in here. Let me see, what do we got here? This is my T8. They've got a T8 on the pocket clip screw, which is interesting, but the one on the other side is a T6, so you will need a T6 driver. Pivot screws, yep, it doesn't feel like there's any Loctite in there. I could move that, no problem. Let me grab one of my T6s here, and let's just take a look-see at their screws, see how much... See, Ganzo's been doing a good job of it. Although I don't like T6s, if you're going to do T6s, might as well do them like this, where the screw head is proper tolerance. Like, it's not going to strip out too easily. You can get the screw in deep enough to get a good grip on that screw and be able to take that apart. So I don't prefer button screws that are recessed, especially when they're T6s. Could be worse, but remember, this is under $30 US in 2024, late 2024, so not too bad. We got a back spacer, and it's just smooth. There's no jimping or bumps on it. And I'm going to take this apart and see if you can do it without the back spacer. That would lighten things up a little bit. And yeah, so there you go. That's sort of the general overview. When I carried it, did I find it useful? Yes, I like this blade. It's a decent, it's comfortable enough to use a little bit. It's not like a hard use knife, and it's not an extended use knife. It's an EDC knife. Like, you carry it and it's an occasional use kind of knife, but that thin edge there made it work really well for, you know, cutting up fruit or whatever, you know, if I wanted to do my lunch. I eat at home because I'm home all the time due to my medical issues and stuff. So yeah, the blade edge is quite nice. Fairly sharp from the factory, could be sharper, but it's pretty good. And it's not that hard to sharpen. There's enough flat area here for me to grip it in my sharpening system and sharpen it up a bit more. And it looks kind of nice, doesn't it? It does not have a bad look to it at all. It's a decent looking knife. Let's do the measurements later on. I'm going to take this thing apart and show you, you know, how it's built. And while it's apart, I'm going to adjust that detent. So I'll be right back. All right, let's take a look at this. Screws, there's no thread locker on them. I really like that. We've got steel ball bearings in here. And what do we got? We've got 4, 8, 9, 10. 10, yeah. There's 10 ball bearings in here, which is quite nice. Better than 9. We've got a thicker grease lubricant right there. I prefer really light oil, you know, like Gunny Glide. That's what I prefer, so I'm going to clean that out and use that after I put it back together again. And yeah, that's pretty decent. Stop pin is free floating in here, but it's a captured stop pin. Nice trench here for it, closed in the front. Big pro for me that these are closed in the front. I don't like it when it's open to the front and junk can get into that spot. Just don't lose that pin since it's free floating in there, but it doesn't wiggle in there. It's firm in there. That's really nice. The back spacer, yep, they've got these pins with shoulders on them, so you can easily put it back together like that. Just delete the backspacer. You don't like backspacer? Just delete it. Of course, you don't have hourglass shapes or anything in there, but you don't have to have the backspacer if you don't want it. So there you go. Not bad, not bad at all. There's the skeletonizing. Like I said, you could drill some of these out a little bit bigger. Maybe just the last one on both. Don't do that one too big because you don't want to weaken that area there. So maybe not on that side, but totally up to you if you wanted to make it a little bit lighter. But see this? It's round back here. There's no 90-degree angles on here. That's going to create a stress point and have that crack more easily. It's just well made. And I've got to finish taking this apart, take this clip off so that I can do my work on, you know, relieving how much pressure this lock arm is pushing that way. So I'll do that off camera. And when we come back, I'll do your measurements and stuff. Well, there's some things I forgot to talk about. I'll do that before the measurements. Blade alignment, like right there, perfect. It's right down the middle, just like you want it to be. And now the deployment is really good. Oh, hit the table. And it's much smoother than it was. It's not drop shutty at all. I didn't loosen it up, the spring tension that much, but works well. Action's a little bit smoother, and it's easy to deploy. Just easy to deploy. It's not too easy to deploy, but it's really well done. You can do the slow roll with your thumb, much easier now. I didn't even demonstrate the slow roll before. Got a little bit of squeak there. I think I need to add just a tiny bit of lube to where the detent goes. Now that's not, I can't see the detent line anywhere. Let me just put the tiniest droplet onto the detent ball. And that should take away after it gets in there. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, a little bit of squeak on the deployment still. Remember, it's a $30 knife. Yeah, but that's great. That's mostly gone now, so I like that. What else was I going to say? Lockup. It's a little bit early, not too terribly early. It's fully engaged and, no blade play, side to side, up and down, solid engagement. Nice little chamfer on the side here. Easy to get your thumb in there to get that release going. And I added a tiny bit of a ramping to the detent so it goes up off the detent ball's pushing on the side of the blade. You see the arm move over when it goes. Just made that a little bit smoother of a roll. Instead of having a crisp edge to climb, it's sort of rounded, and it works well. That's quite nice. Sizes and dimensions, all that stuff. Let me just move my stuff around here so I can see my notes off my worksheet. The weight of this knife, 85 grams. The sliverest amount under 3 ounces. Basically, it's 3 ounces. Get rid of that back spacer. It's going to be a little bit less if you make a hole, a little bit less. So 3 ounces, basically. The sharpness from the factory, on my tester, I got a score of 180 best. Not quite as good as the average knife that I review, but hey, it's pretty close. It's still a very good sharpness from the factory. And hopefully you know how to sharpen knives. And if you don't, put that into your list of things, because that's really going to make this hobby stick for a long time. The rest of your life, you're going to be loving knives once you've learned how to sharpen knives decently. You don't have to become an excellent knife sharpener. Once you can sharpen decently, you're just going to want to be doing this hobby forever. Dimensions, sizes, cutting edge length, so tip of the blade to the heel of the cutting edge, so just the cutting edge, 64.2 millimeters, 2.53 inches. The blade length, tip to the closest spot on the handle, is 65.6 millimeters, 2.58 inches. And the thickness of the blade stock, 3.34 millimeters, 0.1315, so just a bit over 1/8 of an inch thick right there. Blade depth, the biggest, widest point's about here, but it's very even most of the way. 26.1 millimeters, 1.03 inches, so 1 inch. The thickness of the steel at that edge, and the thinness behind the grind, that is the edge. You get this main bevel where it changes into the sharpening bevel. The thickness right at that point, 0.44 millimeters, 17,000ths of an inch thin. I really, really like that. Grind angle's fairly consistent along the edge from what I can tell, and measuring decently sharpened. The handle length from the tip of the handle, well, this way, the handle length, 92.9 millimeters, 3.66 inches. The grip area, it's roughly 7.5 centimeters, about 3 inches. So it's not a lot of grip area. Thickness of the handle scales, 12.7 millimeters, half an inch. Almost exactly half an inch thick with a nice texture for grip there. The handle depth within the grip area, it's widest right here, 24.3 millimeters, 0.957, so about an inch again, just a little bit less. When the knife is closed, what's the widest point in your pocket? 33.6 millimeters, 1.32 inches. And the total length of this thing is about 169 millimeters, 6.65 inches. Not a very big knife. Quite happy with that. in a lot of ways. What do I think of this knife? Well, now that I've adjusted the tension on this lock bar and added that tiny bit of chamfer, for a pivot ramp right there, all I did was use a coarse sharpening stone, and I rubbed the blade corner, that corner where the detent ball goes on there, 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds worth, like very little. That's all it took to make this thing a whole lot better. Like I said, blade alignment's good, balance is decent, feels good in the hand, the blade's super useful, nice and thin. So it's not a stainless steel. By the way, Ganzo used 440C for a long time for a lot of their knives, and still does, which I quite like. I'd be happy if they just gave you the option between D2 and 9CR18, which is a really good steel. That's the base for Artisan Cutlery's AR RPM 9. It's a good stainless steel. I wish they would do that for this FH line, but you can still find a lot of their knives in 440C, which is also a good stainless steel. I love this pocket clip. When Ganzo first came out with this wire pocket clip, it worked well, and they haven't changed anything. It's a very good pocket clip. Nice little touches of, a little insert there. A little bit of a cutout here for your lanyard thing. You can get rid of the backspacer if you want to without changing the functionality at all. The G10's got a good grip, decent hand feel. Yes, I'd like to have a little bit more jimping up there, but the blade shape, the main bevel, this sort of Warncliffe style blade, really well done. And that whole shape with that chamfer all the way around that hole, it just makes it easy to use. Deploy that blade, solid. I'm happy with this thing. I'm very happy with this thing. I accidentally ordered 2 of them, so when I was in Missouri, I gave one to my nephew. I've got a number of nephews. I gave one to my nephew in Missouri, and he's quite enjoying the knife too. Very happy with this thing. It's a good little EDC. If you want a knife that's around 2.5 inches, consider looking at Ganzo. If you would prefer sort of a drop point blade and a button lock, yeah, the 925, the FH925. I'll see if I can get one before too terribly long. It's going to take a while. It really takes a long time to get knives up into Canada from the United States. The way I do it, because it's been foolproof ever since I started having Dave in Nebraska, take the knives apart, and he mails me the handles in one package and mails me I just cut myself. Mails me the blades in another package. It's a tiny little cut. There's no blood. Nope, no blood. There it is. There's the blood. And that's why we got Band-Aids. And that's why I need to learn a lesson from somebody. I think there's some guy, he ends his video saying, remember, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Thanks for watching. Thanks for leaving a comment. Thanks for leaving a thumbs up, or maybe even a thumbs down, and remind me to stop cutting myself on my videos. Maybe I'll listen.